Hey guys, it's your girl Corporate Carolyn, and I am stopping by with a message that just came to me as I have realized that I need to work late. But that's okay because I can do that while I'm watching television. But I did have a really good thought that I wanted to share with you. Not sure if you guys grew up in a dysfunctional home. So many people have, and by dysfunction I mean, where there was beating, cheating, any sort of chaos or drama that went on a regular basis. Maybe you had an alcoholic parent, maybe you had an abusive father or mother, but if you had chaos in your home, a lot of times it's hard for people to find healthy relationships in their adult lives, because usually for some reason that wounded child in you, I said child, I'm from Augusta, Georgia, so forgive me on that, but a lot of times that child in you that may not have healed may find comfort in those situations because you've grown used to that. And so I grew up where there was beating, cheating, an alcoholic father that was, in and out of jail. Parents were separated by the time I was 4. Parents got divorced by the time I was 7. Mom, had a few boyfriends or whatever, and your girl wound up getting molested and all this other stuff, and it just didn't make for the best foundation for picking, a husband that would help you to raise a healthy family or whatnot. And so for a while, I thought I was going to repeat some of the patterns that I had seen, especially when those patterns included me being told that, all men are dogs, men are no good, that people cheat, and that's just a way of life. You'll understand when you grow up. And it was just all horrible stuff, just garbage in, and I thought it was going to be garbage out. But it just so happens that I had a neighbor named Mrs. Harley that used to, read Harlequin romance books, in addition to dipping snuff and drinking beer while she drove me around places while my mother was working. So, that was a thing. She really had a big tumbler with beer in it. And so, she would go to errands. Sometimes we'd be on the way to church with the beer that she had. But she had those Harlequin romance books. She lived next door to us, and so when I was trapped sitting in her living room while she was upstairs, she would let me read the books. And even though I was a preteen at that time, it was back in the day when Harlequin romance books, people didn't even have sex until until they got married. So it wasn't like a really bad thing. She wasn't a totally bad influence. But and also watching television and seeing examples of how married couples interacted, like whether it was Good Times, not this new version of Good Times, but the original Good Times, where even though Florida and James were poor, they still loved their family. They both worked, and they were taking care of their children, and they were hoping for a better future. I mean, that's a positive influence, not that foolishness that Steph Curry and Netflix had the nerve to put out, which is so insulting, I think, to black people. But that's a different discussion. However, seeing that, things like Little House on the Prairie with Charles and Caroline Ingalls, watching the Waltons with Olivia and John, it just showed me a different dynamic. And so even though I was seeing different things in my home life, I don't know if it was just like inspiration from the Holy Spirit, but something told me to do something different. And so I just decided to do things differently from what I've seen. And it's funny, like when I was at Clemson University, where my family told me that I could never go because we didn't have any money, and people actually encouraged my mother to make me drop out of school because she said, y'all ain't got no money. And, my father wasn't taking care of me, which all of this was true, but I didn't listen. And I went anyway because I saw things on TV that talked about how a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And they showed the NAACP, this college fund where they were, showing a mother scrubbing a floor, trying to get her kid in college or whatnot. And I said, okay, I should go to college. And so I had to trust and believe that I'd get a scholarship, even though I didn't know what it was at the time. But television can be a good influence, even though it can be a negative influence. It was a good influence for me. It showed me something different. Reading showed me something different. And so I decided, I pushed back and said, when my mom told me that, I would understand later, while some people were cheating, even though they were married, I said, no, I'll never understand. If I ever need to cheat on my husband, that means I need to get a divorce. And I always felt that, even at 12 and still at 58 today, that's the case. And then I was like, I can't be married to anybody that will be drunk in front of my children. Been there, done that. My children aren't going to be visiting somebody in jail. Been there, done that. I'm not going to have children that are having a sleepover while the electricity has been turned off. That was something that happened with me when I was 8, and I remembered this. So I'm just like, I need to take safeguards to make sure that these things don't happen to me. And so I'll give you an example. I met a really nice guy at Clemson who really liked me, and I thought, he could be good boyfriend material or whatever. He didn't look exactly the way that I wanted him to look, but he was very nice, and I was looking for nice. And so he came to visit me one time at my dorm, and he had been drinking, and he was with a friend, and they they walked a little bit, and I think he got out of the car, and then he staggered, and my mind did a fast forward to the future, and I got this thought. I said, if I married him, he would be drunk in front of my children. And I was like, we can't have that. So I never saw him again in that capacity. And the funny thing is, that decision not to waste my time, I wound up meeting my Mr. Right within about 2 weeks from that time. And we started, a friendship that led to us dating, and then ultimately us getting married. And we've been married, it'll be 33 years in October. So that's why I did a video saying, don't waste your time, know when to, cut people loose. But also, you need to do the opposite of what you've seen in dysfunction. If, say you saw your mom and your dad, if they had a disagreement, they're cursing each other out and calling each other, all sorts of hateful names like stupid, dumb, calling them a fool, and that, they're never going to be anything. If they argue like that, you have to realize that that's dysfunctional arguing, and that's not how you want to be in your healthy relationship. You have to leave dysfunction behind in order to have a healthy relationship. So if I argue with the husband that I have of 30 plus years, you can bet that when we argue, I'm not insulting him. No matter how mad I am, no matter how much dysfunction I have in my garbage disposal, I can't call him names. I can't curse at him. I can't say, and like, I don't use profanity. I'm really glad that that's taken off the table, because you can say all sorts of hateful, hurtful things that will last, for a lifetime, and you can't take that back. And it really mars, the playing field of your relationship, because you're building on, really bad things that a person hasn't forgotten. And then by the time you start to argue the next time, they're thinking, remember that time? And all of a sudden you're not fighting fairly, and you want to be able to fight fairly. So if you have had dysfunction, then I encourage you to just try to do something different. Like say if you saw a situation where your parents had an argument, and then your mom left and went out and stayed out all night or whatever. Do something different. You might want to come home, as long as there's no, beating, or danger or anything like that. Come back and work things out and say, well, I was really upset because of blah. Give a person a chance to apologize, to do something different. You can't keep repeating the same cycles, doing the same thing. You can't put your hands on people. If you saw your mother hitting your father or vice versa, if you're arguing, even if you have to do this, don't touch people. Don't, point in people's faces if you've seen that. Don't push people. Keep your hands to yourself. You don't want a man to hit you. don't touch him in anger, because a person could have knocked your lights out before they've even thought about it. And so many women, run around putting their hands on people. I don't put my hands on people. I try to use nice words when I'm arguing, even if I'm really upset, even if you have to write a letter, even if you need to walk away. But try not to repeat the same cycles, habits, or bad acts that you saw in your childhood. Try to do something different. Even if you need to get some counseling, even if you need to talk to somebody at your church, you need to tone it down and don't bring that in. And definitely don't learn from the examples that you see on the Real Housewives franchise. Those are like really bad examples of healthy relationships. So wanted to give you an idea of what you can do different. And I know that I keep talking about this particular book, and you would think that Joyce Meyer is paying me money to plug it or whatever, but she's not. It's just something that I believe that really is helpful if you have some issues that relate to the dysfunction that you grew up in. Healing the Soul of a Woman. I'll put the link in the description in case you want to get it, because it talks about a lot of the trauma that women experience. And like I said, my background is checkered. My little voice doesn't give you that impression. People just think, oh, she was just raised in the best situation. But through prayer, talking to the Lord, journaling has really helped as well. Because I keep a journal, and and it's thousands of dollars worth of therapy that really helped me, and it might help you too. But you got to figure it out, and you got to do something different. So that's all I wanted to say. Hopefully that helps somebody out there. If you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. Or if you have anything that other people can do as well, be sure to share it in the comments. But until the next time, I hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.